I honestly thought that I was not going to be making another video on Rachel Zegler for a while, but here I am in 2026 making another video on her. She has recently resurfaced in an interview with Harper's Bazaar, and she is doubling down on what she has said in the past. Hello and welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Shout About It with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters.
I crown you Queen of the Woke!
Let's chat about it. Please let me know what you think of this interview in the comments section below. It will be good to hear what you think, and I welcome different opinions. Please do keep it friendly with each other in the chat as well. I have the article here from Harper's Bazaar. It's not the entire article because it's a long one, so I will be sure to link it below should you wish to read it in its entirety for additional context. I refuse to assimilate for anybody else's comfort. Rachel Zegler is staying true to herself. From finding herself at the center of a media furore surrounding her casting as a Disney princess to winning over the critics as Evita in the West End, the actress Rachel Zegler has already endured all the highs and lows of fame. Here she sits down with Frances Hedges to discuss how she is flourishing on her own terms. So, firstly, she's not taking any responsibility for what she has said. And in some respects, that's fair enough. However, it will not shine favourably on her in the future because she has, in the past, attached political statements to promoting Snow White and telling people that she didn't need their business if they voted for Trump. So, people don't forget things like that very easily. It's fortunate that Rachel Zegler has a strong foundation of support from her family and such a healthy dose of common sense, because there have been plenty of people who have done their best to bring her down. The star, whose career took off from nowhere when she was selected from open auditions to play Maria in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, aged just 17, lived through the very best and worst effects of fame last year. She became a target of relentless trolling and spiraling controversy following her casting in Disney's 2025 Snow White live-action remake, and was scapegoated for the film's mediocre box office figures, only to return in full force for her West End run of Evita a matter of months later. She is now poised to return to the London Palladium, the scene of her redemption, although, as she observes pointedly, you have to have actually done something wrong in order to be redeemed, for what is set to be an equally triumphant performance of the last 5 years. Good song in the last 5 years, by the way. Now, if Rachel had common sense at the time of Snow White, then she wouldn't have done anything that she did, and she wouldn't have said anything that she said. Straight up facts, right? The comment about those people who are trying to bring her down as well, it's blame the public, isn't it? The majority of what happened with her is self-inflicted. If you put yourself into the spotlight, then you are open to critique. Critique isn't necessarily trolling. There will be people who will have trolled, yeah. I would agree with that. However, a lot of what I saw was critique. This redemption arc that is also mentioned is not really a redemption arc, is it? It's more like theatre is the best option right now because it's clear that you cause issues for production companies. There will be a lot of people who will go to theatre who will not know what was going on with her and the film industry. The vitriol she encountered during and after the filming of Snow White was somehow harder to take in her stride, not least because it was fueled by racial prejudice. Her casting was accompanied by an outcry from those who claimed that her Colombian ancestry made her unsuitable for the role, and that this was an example of woke diversity hire. A particularly difficult thing to hear for a star who had previously had to endure suggestions that she wasn't significantly Hispanic to play Maria, who is Puerto Rican, in West Side Story. I was told I wasn't enough for one thing for West Side Story and too much of another for Snow White, she says. It was a really confusing time to be in my early 20s and hearing that. I grew up proud of being Colombian, eating the food, wearing the dresses, drinking the coffee, doing all the things that were so intrinsic to who I was as a kid and who I am as an adult. But I do think there's an argument to be made, in the public eye at least, when you're two things, you're simultaneously nothing, that I refuse to assimilate for anybody else's comfort. Why does she never talk about her Polish roots? We don't often hear her talk about her father. What's wrong with her Polish roots? Anyway, according to Rachel, she in the past had to prove that she was Latina to work on West Side Story several times, and I can't find it at the moment. But there was also a stir, if I recall, where she said something about West Side Story being an authentic representation or a true representation, something along those lines. And the Puerto Ricans said that she wasn't Puerto Rican, so therefore it wasn't a true representation, or something along those lines. Okay, which then resulted in her saying, "Well, does it matter?" Don't quote me on that though. I haven't found it yet, but I'm sure it exists somewhere, but I can't find it at the moment. With Snow White, the critique was originally aimed at Disney, right? Until the actors went on strike. Everything went silent. So what did people do? I think it was the strike, was it? Yeah, it was the strike. People went through past footage, found old interviews, and found the bad things she said about the story itself. Yeah. So what are people going to make of it? Yeah. Zegler is understandably careful with her words since Snow White controversy that began with her casting spiraled out of control when she shared certain opinions with the world first about the outdated portrayal of the heroine in the original film. Yeah, she did that during promotion. You forget to say that, right? She did that through promotion. Cue the wrath of an army of die-hard Disney fans, and later, more seriously, when she publicly supported Palestinian human rights on social media, which she attached. They failed to mention this, but she attached to a shared post or a post or whatever of the trailer of Snow White. Right? That's a big no when you're working and promoting something. Absolutely not. Her remarks, carrying on, were interpreted as particularly incendiary because of her co-star Gal Gadot is a former IDL forces soldier. Rumors of tension between the two women abounded. Those statements cost Disney a lot of money. They had to fly someone from Disney to deal with the situation because it caused massive damage. Disney, if I've got this correct, also had to get protection for Gal Gadot as well. I mean, come on, that's a lot of money to spend. Now, word may very well have played around like Chinese whispers amongst the production companies since all of this has occurred. And this is why we're not seeing her. And, I've worked in the entertainment industry for years, so I know people do talk. Zegler has never retracted her comments, and does she do so with me today, arguing, "I've said what I feel, and there will always be a testament to my core beliefs as a human. That's where I stand." She does, however, admit that the situation was a complete study in intent versus impact. You live and you learn, and there's a caution that comes with that, she continues. There's an understanding that the temptation to speak doesn't always mean that it must be done. And there were a lot of opportunities to make more meaningful changes than a tweet. When I ask her whether, looking back, she thinks she ought to have anticipated the backlash, she shakes her head. "If I'd been able to predict everything that would come my way, the threats to my safety, I would have just thrown my phone into the ocean," she says. "I think any sane person would have." So she doesn't accept responsibility, right? Retract her statements, apologize for anything, right? that suggests that the apology that she made, right, quote unquote, she made, was a PR apology. Well, actually, we know it was a PR apology because it didn't sound like her anyway. What this is saying is learn your lessons well. Now, people do say that she is young, so she will learn eventually. However, Rachel isn't, and I don't mean this in a horrible way, by the way, she isn't what we would define in the sense of normal, right? And what I mean by that is she was put into a film at the age of 17 years old, much like other teen and child stars. She was removed from what we would call a sense of normality, a sense of normal life. What was going on around her was very surreal, and she has to almost grow up extremely quick. So she misses vital things that perhaps would have allowed her to develop at a normal rate, right? I'm not saying she's underdeveloped or anything like that. Right? I don't mean it like that. But do you understand what I mean? It comes with the sense of I have to be seen to follow the trends and be in with the latest political statements because that is what people do in this industry. That's what we do, even when I may not be 100% sure what they mean. And only after the backlash do I learn the consequences. Most young people who start work at 17 learn extremely quickly that there are consequences to their actions in the workplace, especially when it comes to making the company look bad. By working age, you are old enough to take the responsibility for the things that you do and you say if it's going to affect the company. It would seem finally that at the age of 24, that Rachel may, just may, have finally understood what that means. However, time will tell. That's what I think. Let me know what you think. Chuck us a sub if you would like to. It's free. I don't charge you for it. Chat about it, don't chat about it. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you soon. Bye bye. Thank you for watching today. Don't forget you can join me on my other platforms as well. I've got YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, X, TikTok, Instagram, Locals, Substack, and I also have a Discord. Everything is linked below.